Every year, we fall in love with the draft combine darlings, the players that go to Indianapolis, test off the charts, and end up boosting their draft stock as a result. Last year, it was South Carolina safety Nicky Manwari who ended up going on to play a huge role in the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. This year, I think there is a wide receiver who has a legitimate chance to break the 40-yard dash record, and that player is Mississippi State wide receiver Brenen Thompson. Thompson is a player who really burst onto the scene in 2025, and I think with a good performance at the Combine, has a chance to be a top 75 pick. And a very good wide receiver class. How high should Thompson expect to hear his name called? That's what we will be discussing in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton, and it helps get this video out to more NFL draft fans like yourselves. Comment down below which prospects you guys want to hear me discuss in a future video, and without further ado, let's get into it. Brenen Thompson was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school and started his college career at Texas. He was a track star in high school, but he only played in 52 total snaps for the Longhorns before transferring to Oklahoma in 2023. He spent 2 seasons with the Sooners and once again didn't really see the field very much. He had 575 combined snaps in those 2 years, posting just 26 receptions for 471 yards and 4 touchdowns. He hit the portal last offseason and decided to go to Mississippi State, where he played in 2025, and he had a really good, strong breakout season. He had 57 receptions for 1,054 yards and 6 touchdowns on the year, and I thought was a huge part of some of the success that the Bulldogs had. I am very curious how NFL teams are going to view his lack of production, because outside of 2025, Thompson has not been a very productive receiver, and those one-year wonder types do often scare teams at the next level, so I'm very curious how NFL teams are going to value that. Before we talk about all of the positives in Brenen Thompson's game, I think there's one major weakness that will limit his upside at the NFL level, and it is his size. Thompson is listed at 5'9", 170 pounds, and he is very clearly a small receiver. Because of this, he's got a very small catch radius, and I do think teams are going to have him lower on their board regardless of the tape, because there are a lot of teams that have size thresholds for wide receivers, and Thompson would be a really small receiver. Also, with Tank Dell being a very similarly built receiver, and the injuries that he has faced throughout his career, I do think there is some potential injury concern with Thompson at the next level, and I'm very fascinated to see how teams are going to value his size and frame at the NFL level. I think the first thing that really pops off on tape when you're watching Brenen Thompson is his ridiculous speed. I mean, if we're talking about a player who I think can legitimately contend for the 40-yard dash record, then he must be fast, but Brenen Thompson is ridiculous, and it's not just his build-up speed, which he does have, but his burst and explosiveness are remarkable. He is gone in the blink of an eye, and because of his speed, I think he has the ability to be a dangerous vertical threat as well as a really good special teams player at the next level, and with the new kickoff rules, I think that should make Thompson a pretty valuable asset because he can outrun everybody on the other side of the ball. Another thing that I love to see from Thompson is I think he has some of the best routes in the entire draft class. His stop and start ability are absolutely incredible, but his overall ability to put his foot in the dirt and turn upfield seamlessly is incredible. He sinks his hips well, and I think his comeback routes are filthy. He can win to all 3 levels of the field and can make plays after the catch, which I love to see, and I think that again makes him a pretty enticing weapon. Lastly, despite having a small frame, I thought Brenen Thompson showed some willingness as a blocker. I don't think he's going to be asked to be a 3-down blocker at the next level, but you have a smaller receiver that is showing a willingness to do the dirty work in the run game. I love seeing that from my wide receivers, and I think that immediately gives him some points over some other guys that don't necessarily try as much as a blocker. With Thompson, outside of his size, I wouldn't say there are a lot of weaknesses in his game. However, I do think he struggles at times against press coverage, which you could argue is a result of him having a smaller frame. Thompson isn't the most physical receiver in the world, and against physical coverage, I did feel he had some issues consistently separating. I also don't think he is a great contested catch weapon, which is to be expected from a 170-pound receiver, but he has less than a 40% contested catch rate in his career, and I'd like to see that improve. Mississippi State, I think, recognized the weaknesses that he had against physical coverage, and because of this, they used him a lot in motion to get him manufactured touches, and I think there are going to be some conversations on if that's going to have to be his role at the next level. I do think he has a good release package, and we know how good of a route runner he is, but there are going to be some struggles against bigger, more physical corners, and I'm very curious how he's going to develop into that. Brenen Thompson is a player who I think there are going to be a lot of differing opinions on. Yes, he is a smaller wide receiver, but he has some of the most incredible speed. He's really twitchy. I think he's got good hands, and he's got the ability to win to all three levels of the field. The size will potentially hold him back, but if you move him to the slot, it's going to be really difficult for teams to match up with this guy one-on-one simply because he's so much faster than the defensive backs he's going up against. I have Brenen Thompson as my number 12 wide receiver and a top 75 player on my board. He might be a specialist, but I do think he adds so much value because of that speed, and I think it should make him very intriguing. In terms of a scheme fit, Thompson is a player who, because of the lack of size, will be a slot receiver and more of a gadget type of player at the next level. I don't think he has the frame to hold up on the boundary, and we talked about the struggles that he has with physical coverage, but I do think he has all of the makings of being a dangerous slot weapon in the NFL. My player comparison for Brenen Thompson is a Tyreek Hill light. I'm not saying he's going to be a future Hall of Fame type of receiver like I think Tyreek Hill should be, but they have very similar games. Both are smaller receivers who have blazing speed, are excellent at tracking the ball in the air, were great punt returners, and can win to all three levels of the field. In terms of skill set and play style, I think Thompson and Hill are very similar players. Hill, early on in his career, got a lot of manufactured touches. Even through Miami, was more of a guy that he's going to be in motion to try and get him a running start. When while Tyreek Hill is a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger, I think Thompson, from a skill set evaluation, is a very similar player. Brenen Thompson has blazing speed. He is legitimately one of the fastest receivers I have ever evaluated, and for that reason alone, I think he's going to get taken high. I'm a big fan, and ultimately, I believe that Brenen Thompson will be a top 100 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft.